Let's do this and be done. For real. Okay, the muscles, this whole chapter is how to name muscles, and then it goes through naming all the muscles. You and I are not going to name the muscles together. We're not going to go through all that, but I want to talk about how to name them. The principles that we name muscles with. Okay? So, how do you learn all the names of muscles? You learn the roots. And you learn how to dissect the words. At this point, the myo, the meso, the sarco, all of that stuff starts to play its way into things. And we'll learn some root terms. But then if you can get this really long muscle that looks completely foreign, a lot of times you can pull out what it does and choose the correct answer. Okay, so that's what it's talking about. It also says that when you're labeling the muscles, you should practice on yourself. Actually, one of the labs that we had, which I took out and I always omitted, was somebody in class had to take their shirt off and we painted their muscles. In high school, they were like, yeah, no. Okay, but there's a lot of different ways to practice this. That my mastering in high school, I mean, I've only taught high school for 15 years. I've had quite a few different students. But that mastering A&P, there's apps on your phone. I had an app on my phone to help me memorize the muscles. There's all kinds of different tools. You can kind of pull on to try to get this stuff down. Muscles can only contract, so they can only pull. They cannot push, and they work in pairs. So, like, for example, the bicep and the tricep, when this muscle contracts, this muscle stretches. When this muscle contracts, this muscle stretches. So what one does, the other will undo. And that's what it's talking about. They roll in pairs like that. And that's where we get the flexion and extension that we spoke about in another chapter. I don't remember which one. But prime mover, agonist versus antagonist. The agonist is what does the work. The antagonist undoes it. And it really just depends on what movement you're talking about. So like if I was trying to flex my arm, the agonist would be my bicep. The antagonist would be my tricep. If I was trying to straighten my arm or extend my arm, then this would be the agonist, this would be the antagonist. It just depends on what movement you are trying to do. Synergy. Does anybody know what the term synergy means? Synergy is like a team building type thing where it says, alone we can do good things, but together we can do a whole lot more. So synergists are muscles that come together and work together when you're trying to do large movements. Okay? And when we talk about muscles, there's over 600 muscles in our body, so there's quite a few synergists taking place. A fixator is something that immobilizes. It will stop it, and it gives us a base. So this is also what we're going to end up calling our origin point, okay, where it's fixed to. Here shows you different ways that muscles can be used for protection and support, okay? This also helps with naming, but we'll get there. The names of muscles are never random. There's quite a bit of information that you could potentially get from them. One of them might be the location. Okay? Another one might be the shape of the muscle. It might not give you any information on the location, but it may give you information on the shape. The size of the muscle. You might hear maximus, or minimus, or medius, or intermediate, or longus, or longismus. So there's long, then there's longus, then there's longismus. That means the longest. Yeah, I know. But you can kind of get that information as you start to dissect these words. The directions of the fibers, like if you've ever heard rectus, like abdominis rectus. Rectus means that they're straight and parallel. Okay. Oblique tells you that they go outside of that 90-degree angle. You could also get information on the number of origins, like a bicep. Bicep tells you that it has 2 places. Brachii tells you where it's located. So the biceps brachii tells you that it has 2 origin points. Bicep, right here, sorry, I'm pointing down here, but 2 origin points. And biceps brachii tells you that it's in my brachial region. You also have a biceps femoris. Where do you think that's located? In your feet, yes. Do you see how you can get that information from that? The location of the attachment. A lot of times, the name of the muscle will tell you where it originates and where it inserts. And I will give you some examples as we go through. Also, it could give us information on the action of that muscle. Like we'll look at the extensor, you'll look at, because we're not going to go through all the muscles together, but it says extensor digitorum longus. Extensor means that it causes it to extend. Digitorum tells you it's on the finger. Longus tells you that it's long. So extensor digitorum longus. Its antagonist is the flexor digitorum longus. So what's flexor? So extensor, flexor. Okay? So you're going to hear all of that information as we go, as we continue through. As far as the arrangements of the fascicles. Sometimes you have a circular arrangement. Anytime you have a circular arrangement, it's going to say oris. Or not necessarily. It doesn't have to say that, but it could say oris. That specifically actually tells you that's in the mouth. I need to not say that. But that it has that circular arrangement of fascicles. Convergent, whenever something converges, what does that look like? Convergent. Yeah, it comes together. So we'll see that, and I'm going to show you some diagrams and show you what I'm looking at, or I'm referencing. Parallel is that rectus, for example, the sartorius muscle, and fusiform is where it kind of comes together in a spindle shape. And I'm going to show you diagrams. I know I'm clicking through this, but I want to let me just get to the diagrams, and then I'll go back and show you. So a circular muscular arrangement will have the fascicles go all the way around, so it's completely circular. You have that here, you have that here, you also have that on your urethral opening and your anal opening. So those are all orifices where you have circular muscles there. Here you can see a pectoralis muscle where it's convergent, like it's all kind of coming together. So that's a tendon that's going to attach it. Fusiform, so you have, and it's biceps because it's got the two origination points there. And then here it's going to insert on the ulna and the radius. But biceps brachii, so it's telling you where that's located. Parallel, the fascicles are arranged parallel in a parallel fashion. You can't really tell here because this isn't really high resolution. When you talk about unipennant, multipennant, bipennant muscles, that's talking about how many tendons it has attached to it. Okay? And so multipennant, we have a whole bunch there. Here we have bipennant, and you actually have two there. And then unipennant, just one tendon there. And this shows you, it labels the letters, but it also shows you where they're located as far as the fascicle arrangement. I just want to make sure, one tendon, two tendons, multiple tendons. Okay, I just want to make sure I covered all the terms. I don't want to skip a term for you guys. When you look at the fascicles of a muscle, the direction that those fascicles go tell you the direction of their power. So if they're lined up straight like this, the power is straight like that. If they're lined up in an oblique way, the power comes from that. So you get your power from the direction of those muscle fascicles. That's why our muscles go in all different directions, so that we have power and reinforcement in all directions. Okay, and when we look at our abdominal muscles, it'll show you a great example of that. So I already mentioned there's over 600 muscles in the body. When you look at their names, again, their names could give you information on their shape, their location, where they originate or where they insert, their action, or their innervation pattern, meaning what nerve touches them. Not any muscle name is going to give you all of that. But each muscle is not randomly named. Like, it gives you some type of information. You just have to look into it and understand what each of those terms, or at least some of those terms, mean. How do you study them? And I already told you how to study them. Okay. For the test that you have next week, you only need to know the muscles that are listed on the review. Okay? So make sure you're familiar with the muscles that are on the review, where they originate, where they insert, what they do. Okay, just those muscles. So that was a anterior view. Here's a posterior view. Then it talks about the muscles of the head. We're not going to go through and label all of these. I want to start cooking your brain just for a few minutes to go through some thought patterns. Okay, first of all, as you look through these names, because we're not going to go through all of them, are there any of these names that you feel like you look at that muscle and you can kind of tell where it might be, or what it might do? Zygomaticus, where do you think? Yeah, it's going to be here on the cheek. And this is the facial bone. These are the muscles of facial expression. So when I flex that, it causes movement right here. Okay, it inserts on my cheek. So yes. What about levator labii superioris? It's above what? What's a lip? Levator labii superioris. So it was above. Guess what this muscle does? It causes us to lift our upper lip. Yeah. Okay? Causes us to lift our upper lip. What about depressor labii inferioris? Do you see, like once you figure out one, then you can kind of start figuring out the rest. Buccinator or buccinator, a lot of people only know that because of the buccal swabs, but these are your cheek muscles. Those here. Orbicularis oris. Orbicularis oculi is eye. Oris is mouth. Okay? And those are things that, as you kind of go through this, you'll start to pick those up. So I want to point them out, and I want to have these discussions together. The platysma is this muscle right here. Like it's this flat muscle that lays atop of everything else. So this is the platysma. It's actually referenced quite a bit as you get through the muscle chapter. So platysma, and you can read platysma, and you'll be like, that doesn't give me any information. That's just one of those ones you have to memorize. Okay. So here, the next few slides kind of go through that. Where do you think the temporalis muscle is? Very good. What about the masseter? Okay, so we have a mastoid process. So it's here also. This is moving your jaw. So once you start, those will all start to come together. And these are all put together in groups. The buccinator is, again, that cheek muscle. Anytime you see glossus, glossus means tongue. Glossus means tongue. So anytime you see glossus, it means tongue. Genioglossus. This name right here tells you where it originates and where it inserts. Genio means chin. So it originates here and it inserts on my tongue. So it helps me move my tongue. Hyoglossus, it's the hyoid bone to my tongue. So that's the information that it's giving me there. Styloglossus is going from my styloid process to my tongue. And of course, I know those, and some of you are like, oh my God, this is way too much. But as you go through them, and again, I told you we're not really going through these in detail like we would. And I'll leave that other lecture up there, so if you want to keep going through them, you can. So anyways, they insert on your tongue. They originate on other immovable parts, but what they're working on is your tongue, so glossus. Suprahyoid, infrahyoid. Supra, above and below the hyoid bone. Okay, so you know where that's located at. Anything hyoid has to do with the hyoid bone. So, and that was on the paper, of course. But like thyroid, hyoid. I don't know why I can't say that. But the thyroid, it's in this region, and then hyoid, the bone. Okay, stylohyoid, talking from the styloid process, and you can see it here. The sternocleidomastoid. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that this is for sure going to be on your practical. Why? Because it's my absolute favorite muscle. Because I think it's the hardest one for people to pronounce, and then they hear it and they're like, what? But it's only the muscle that allows you to go like this. But it sounds really cool. Sternocleidomastoid? What? You can say that and people are like, oh my gosh, you're smart. I know. No, that's what you say. That's not me saying that to you. I didn't mean to sound cocky at all. This is on a cadaver. I apologize if I came across as cocky. Other muscles here. Splenus capitis. We've talked about spinalis. What do you think spinalis is? Something along the vertebral column for the spinal. Sternocleidomastoid, I already pointed out. Infra and suprahyoid. Iliocostalis. Ilium? What's costal? Your ribs. So you have a muscle that goes from here to here. Well, you have muscles on both sides. Iliocostalis. Long isthmus just tells you it's long. That doesn't tell you where it's at. It just tells you that it's a long muscle. Spinalis tells you it's along the vertebral column. Yes. Erector spinae. What is that going to do? Where do we know it's working? On the spinal cord. Okay, well, it's not the spinal cord, it's actually the vertebral column. But erector means that it's allowing me to stand up, okay, or to keep it straight. Anything thoracis tells you where it's at. Okay, you can kind of get that information there. Anything else? Iliocostalis is said. After spine. Internal versus external costal muscles. Where's costal again? Your ribs. So the external muscles are on the outside of your ribs. The internal muscles are on the inside of your ribs. Okay? The external muscles allow you to inspire. The internal muscles help with the expiration process. Okay? So exhaling. The diaphragm is the diaphragm. Okay? External, internal. Diaphragm. Cadaver. Rectus abdominis. Rectus tells you that it's straight, and abdominis tells you that it's in the abdominal area. Okay? External obliques. At the outside. You actually have two layers. So you have external obliques, and then you have internal obliques. And I'm going to have to show you a cross section. Transversus abdominis. It's going across, it's going across, and it's in my abdominal area. Yes. So here are the abdominal muscles. You can see that when we talk about the internal and external oblique, right here, but look at the fiber arrangement. They don't go in the same direction. They go in different directions, and that increases your strength and mobility, that support there. Rectus abdominis here, and then your transverse going across. Your abdominal muscles are actually layered. You don't just have one abdominal muscle, you have layers of them, which give them their shape when they're toned. Muscles of the abdominal wall. Kind of shows you that. So you can kind of see here, wherever it went. This is showing you a transverse cut. Here's your abdominal wall, so you can see the layers of the muscles there. Levator ani. This is the muscle that you have to squeeze in order to poop. Yeah? Coccygeus. Around the coxal bone. So that gives me an idea of where I'm dealing with. Does that make sense? And then you don't pick something in your arm when you see that name. Okay? I mean, if you do, you do, but you shouldn't. All right? And pelvic diaphragm. So it's not this diaphragm. It's the diaphragm that's controlling what leaves your body. So your urethral orifice and your anal orifice. So it's the diaphragm that will contract in order for you to release feces or to urinate. Urogenital diaphragm, that's specifically your urethra. This is a skeletal muscle that you control, that sphincter. So even if your bladder says you have to pee, you have to pee, you have to pee, you can tell yourself, no. There is a point when your smooth muscle takes over, though. Like, if it's going to rupture, you will pee yourself. And then you're like, that's just what happens. Okay, you can only control it for so long. Okay, so this is the pelvic diaphragm, the pelvic floor. This continues to go through, and you can see the circular muscle arrangement with both the urethra and the anus. Here it gets into the reproductive muscles, which are found in the pelvic floor as well, and it's going to continue there. And this will go through the muscles of the leg, the foot, and the arms, because we haven't even got to the arms yet. I just wanted to start pulling names of muscles to kind of give you a frame of reference. When we're in here, I am not going to pick the most difficult muscle and be like, name that. So don't pressure yourself in that way. I'm telling you for sure sternocleidomastoid is going to probably be on lecture and lab. I haven't looked at the lecture, I haven't seen it yet. I mean, I made it, but I don't remember. I love the sternocleidomastoid muscle. I don't know why. But I can guarantee if it's on a test, that's the answer. But I'm not going to pick the hardest muscle to name or ones that are very vague in their identification. I'm going to give you things where I expect you to kind of think your way through logically. Again, if you go into physical therapy, you're going to have a whole class on just the muscle physiology. You're going to have to know all those things and come back to that, okay? So don't kill yourself. I know you're stressing, so I can't say don't stress because I understand. But I just kind of wanted to intro this and give you an idea of how it was going to be tested and what to kind of look for when you're naming these muscles. Any questions or thoughts?
Is there going to be labeling on the exam? The test.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay, in my head I'm like, oh my god, what am I missing? Yes, there is a diagram, but I put those muscles on the review. So if you know the muscles that are on the review, yes. Okay? And you can never underestimate the power of common sense.